As we covered last week, former President Trump went to the Bronx, we just discussed it here too, to hold a campaign rally. He's the first Republican presidential candidate to do that since Ronald Reagan in 1980. Before that rally, the Biden campaign, clearly seeing some of the numbers we're discussing, released an ad trying to paint Mr. Trump as a racist who hates black and brown people. Watch.
Of course I hate these people.
Donald Trump disrespecting black folk is nothing new. He was sued for refusing to rent his apartments to black families and called for the execution of 5 innocent black and brown teenagers.
And it's more than anger, it's hatred.
It's why Trump stood with violent white supremacists, warned of a bloodbath if he loses the next election, and if he's president again, vowed to be a dictator who wants revenge on his enemies. Now, who do you think that is?
Of course I hate these people.
Wow. That's incredibly dishonest and misleading. Remember when President Biden tried to paint himself as the only one who could unite the nation? All we heard was unity, unity, unity. Well, it's a lie. We decided to fact check this ad. As you heard at the beginning and end of the ad, Mr. Trump states, "Of course I hate these people." What? He hates black and brown people? That's a headline. How could that not have been used against him prior to now? Because it's not true. The ad goes on to say that it's an example of Donald Trump disrespecting black folk, which is, quote, nothing new. That line is from a 1989 interview on CNN with the late Larry King. Was Trump just this raging lunatic racist that Larry King was putting on with impunity over there on CNN? No. Mr. Trump was on to talk about an ad that he had placed in several New York City newspapers with the headline, "Bring back the death penalty, bring back our police." The ad ran 12 days after the infamous Central Park gang rape, when a white woman out for a jog in Manhattan's Central Park was raped over and over again by multiple people and left for dead. She lost almost all of the blood in her body. Days later, 5 black and brown teenagers were arrested in connection with that rape and assault. In the interview, Donald Trump told Larry King the ads that he was placing were not prejudging the teens, but rather advocating for the death penalty if they were found guilty. Trump's 1989 ad that he placed in the paper does not mention the then suspects, only the horrific rape that had made international headlines at the time. It was so gruesome and awful. Trump's ad was mainly about crime overall in the city and the need to do something about it. Here's the full clip of Trump saying, "Of course, I hate these people."
I said, of course I hate these people. And let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done. I mean, it's incredible when a reporter asks me whether or not I have compassion for the people that did this crime. I have absolutely no compassion.
Right. No compassion for the people who did this crime. So he's not talking about all black and brown people, as President Biden's cynical ad would like you to believe. The ad also talks about Mr. Trump being sued for refusing to rent his apartments to black families. That's a reference back to the 1970s. And yes, it's a lawsuit from 50 years ago. In 1973, the DOJ filed a civil rights case against the Trump firm. Donald Trump and his father eventually entered into a consent decree to settle the litigation in 75. That agreement contained no admission of guilt, but it required the Trumps to institute a series of safeguards to make sure apartments were rented without regard to race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And Mr. Trump, never one to back down, went on to write in his 1987 book, "What we didn't do was rent to welfare cases, white or black." The Biden campaign ad also accuses Mr. Trump of saying there will be a bloodbath if he loses the next election. That's a reference, of course, to a speech Donald Trump gave in March. And even major media outlets who are not friendly to Trump admitted he was talking about a bloodbath in the auto industry if he loses. Watch.
If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
So not a bloodbath against black and brown voters, as President Biden is suggesting. In the past, we've debunked the Trump wants to be a dictator scare tactic also used in the ad. We'll just skip that. You guys have seen that. It's a nonsense charge, and it's been fact-checked by many. So this is a completely dishonest piece of propaganda that the former president is using, and people should know it's a lie. The whole thing's a lie. Guys, this is so, I mean, just when you don't think you can be even more grossed out by modern American politics, someone finds a way. I mean, this is just so gross and divisive, and it shows his panic, Dave, about what's happening, in particular with black male voters.
Yeah, it's a disgusting ad, but I mean, the most important aspect of it is the first thing that you said, that this ad is running in New York, that they are spending millions of dollars in the most expensive media market in the country for a state that they're not supposed to be able to lose, whatsoever. I'll tell you, I remember June, maybe July of 2022, and I started going to my editors and I said, hey, can I give you something on Lee Zeldin? Because I'm hearing stuff. And they said, Dave, come on. He's losing by 40. There's no story here. Stop it. And I said, all right. And I knew he was losing by 40, but I was hearing stuff in the bodegas and the bagel shops, like stuff I hadn't really heard before. 2 months later, he starts creeping up. He ended up losing by 4. Now, look, COVID had a lot to do with that because Cuomo obviously was a disaster. Hochul was a disaster on COVID. So there were other things. The 2 places where Republicans did really well in 2022 were Florida and New York, right? They picked up 5 seats in New York. So that poll that you cited that has Trump down by only 9, the fact that they're already spending money in the Empire State tells me that Joe Biden's nervous about it. And I don't live there anymore, but from what I remember from quite recently, I think he has reason to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Stu, if you look at Trump's ad, bring back the death penalty, bring back our police, and it's in the tiniest type ever, so forgive me, I'm going to have to read it. But, I mean, everything that's in here, this would go over well with your average voter. He asks, what has happened to our city over the past 10 years? What has happened to law and order? To the neighborhood cop we all trusted to safeguard our homes and families, the cop who had the power under the law to help in times of danger, keep us safe from those who would prey on innocent lives, to fulfill some distorted inner need. What has happened to the respect for authority? What has happened is the complete breakdown of life as we knew it. And he goes on to talk about roving bands of wild criminals in our neighborhoods, dispensing their own vicious brand of twisted hatred on whomever they encounter. At what point did we cross the line from the fine and noble pursuit of genuine civil liberties to the reckless and dangerously permissive atmosphere which allows criminals of every age to beat and rape a helpless woman and then laugh at her family's anguish? And why do they laugh? They laugh because they know that soon, very soon, they will be returned to the streets to rape and maim and kill once again, and yet face no great personal risk to themselves. I mean, it sounds an awful lot like a country I can look around and see right now.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that stuff. Now, the crime levels are lower than those days right now, but the punishment. I mean, the way we're, actually, the prosecutors in all of these areas and major cities are the way they're prosecuting crime right now is they're letting everybody off unless your last name happens to be Trump, and then you get the full trial.
That's right.
It's fascinating. I mean, I think even thinking back to that ad, I mean, I've heard of that ad over the years, of course. And even I had forgotten that he didn't actually name the Central Park 5 in the ad, because that was the accusation, was that he kind of came out and just said, oh, they're guilty, kill them right now before the trial, which is not what he said. But he didn't even name them in the ad. And even if he did, it would be a bad mistake, but a 45-year-old mistake and not necessarily one that should decide a 2024 election. All this stuff adds up to what you're talking about here. When you're running ads in New York and you're rolling out people like Robert De Niro for press conferences, these are not the actions of a campaign that believes it's ahead. These are the actions of a campaign that is terrified. Let me add to that, Stu,
because now not only did the Biden campaign dispatch people to Trump's trial, but they say that if and when Trump is convicted, Biden's going to make a statement from the White House. He's going to do it from the White House to act like he's above it all. This is colossally stupid.
Did he do that on October 7th? I don't think he made a statement from the White House on October 7th. I could be wrong about that. He did not. He didn't. But the Trump trial.
Yeah. Then we have to see him in full commander-in-chief regalia while he's got his, emissaries at the actual courthouse just spewing nonsense. But this is like, I don't want to see my Oval Office used for this. I didn't want to see my DOJ used for this either. But this is, this is the race we've got. I do think it'll be a huge mistake, Dave, if he actually does this from the White House.
But I mean, he's got to do it now, right? It's probably a huge mistake for him to debate, but he's got to do it now. Like this, they're stuck, right? Unless they're not, and unless there's some switcheroo at the convention or whatever it is. But this is bad. It's getting really ugly. I don't understand how they can make the claim that this trial was not political anymore, given these two press conferences. And it's an enormous thing to admit because all they've got is Trump as a threat to democracy. And right now, it's a 50-50 country on that question.
Do you owe back taxes? Pandemic relief is now over. Along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers, oh joy, the IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. No one wants to get those letters. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay, or if you are on a fixed income, they can help finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.